Hey guys, this is the first video in a two-part series on making a custom Minimate from start to finish. Today we're going to be making Awesome Android. He's a big guy, so we're going to go with a 2.5-inch Minimate. And the first thing we need to do is remove some material off his head. You can see in the artwork that he's got this long flat head. Kind of already looks like it's made out of clay. So the Minimate head is just too tall and too round. I need to whittle it down a little bit. So let's head out to the garage and throw this guy on the old wheel sander. Alright, that's a little better. I'm going to take his limbs off here. Those are just going to get in the way when I'm trying to sculpt. I'm going to be using Fix-It Sculpt. It's by the same people that make Epoxy Sculpt. I'm sure you've seen me talk about Epoxy Sculpt before. Used to be my favorite. Then I switched to this stuff about 6 months ago. And the nice thing about Fix-It Sculpt is that it holds its form a little bit better. If you're making like Carnage with those crazy tendrils he's got all over the place. If you use Epoxy Sculpt, those tendrils would start to sag, but with Fix-It Sculpt they hold up really nice. So I've already got part A and part B mixed together. It's got this nice grayish color to it, which works well for Awesome Android. And I'm going to wrap the clay around his head. I don't think I'm going to need all of it yet, so I'm going to pull a little bit aside. And I'm not going for a lot of detail right away. I mostly just want to get it spread around really nice. I probably don't need all this. From the artwork, it looks like his head's going to end up being about as wide as his body. I don't want to go too much wider than that. Even though Minimates are exaggerated, I kind of want to keep the whole figure balanced at the same time. So it's not going to be pretty for a while here. I'm not going to worry as much about the bottom of his head. You're not going to see a whole lot of that when the custom's finished. And any irregularities down there can usually be fixed by sanding. So you can kind of see it's starting to take shape now. I'm going to be getting fingerprints on this thing like crazy, but I've got my epoxy safety solvent here. It's good for cleanup, and it's also good for smoothing out your sculpts as you get closer to finishing them. Water could work too, but this stuff works better than water. You'll notice in the video where I sanded this guy's head, I was using pliers to hold it. Try and remember to be safe like that. I was using my hand one time, and when your hand touches that spinning sanding wheel, it just doesn't feel very good. I know that's surprising, but I had a nasty friction burn there for a while from that sanding wheel. So I'm still trying to get the basic shape of this guy right. A lot of pinching, a lot of pushing. Fix-It Sculpt feels like clay, like the clay you probably used in school. Looks like I'm starting to get some material hanging down here underneath his head. I've got my hobby knife standing by. Pretty soon here I'm going to be ready to trim some of this off if I need to. But I might not need to. Now is when I bring in the hobby knife. I don't think I'm going to cut any material. I think I'm just going to push it up. Just flatten out the bottom a little bit. Like I said, a lot of the flattening we can accomplish with sanding later, but it's pretty time consuming and it's best to get a lot of that out of the way in the sculpting phase if you can. Once I get this guy's head shaped correctly, I'm going to start adding in the, what would you call this? The fold? The mouth? I don't think it's a mouth. I've never saw it move in the comics. We'll call it the fold. That looks good. It may seem a bit larger in proportion to the artwork, but in general Minimate heads are much larger than their real life proportions. So now I'm going to add in the fold. There's a couple ways I could do it. I could use a hobby knife, I could use a toothpick, or I could just use my fingernail. It's not a very hard fold, it kind of rolls into it. I think I might use my fingernail because then I can get that shape right. What would be the best nail to use? This one? It's got a rounded area before it goes flat. I think I'm going to bring the toothpick in. Now the areas inside this fold, it's best if you can keep these as smooth as possible because it's going to be real hard to sand inside that fold. Got a little fleck of something on there. I'm not too worried about it though. And then we'll continue the fold around the side of his head. I wonder if the back of his head has that little thing in it. That little lump. It's the hard part about customizing sometimes is there's never a lot of sources for the back of a character's head. Especially a character like Awesome Android, where awesome as he is, most of the artwork you're going to find on the internet is only going to be from the front. They did make a HeroClix figure of him. I suppose if I really wanted to get into this, I could track down that HeroClix figure and take a look at the back of his head. But I think this is good. So I'm going to leave it at this. I think this is a good start. The Fix-It sculpt is going to take 24 hours to cure. So we'll just let it work its magic, and we'll come back next time. We'll do the chest decal, we'll sand, and we'll paint this guy. See you next time.